What's going on, y'all? Chris TJ Jones here, feeling untamed and off the chain. If you're the type of person who already knows what needs to happen, you already know the decisions that need to be made. You already know what the standard needs to be. It needs to be installed. But, somehow when the time comes to move, you hesitate, you delay. I'd even say you negotiate. If you're that type of person, this is exactly where you need to be. Because this week exposed something big, and it exposed something that a lot of people never name. It exposed that most people are not stuck because of the lack of clarity. They're stuck because they keep renegotiating with the clarity they already have. So that's it. That's the breakdown. It's not confusion. It's not a lack of information. It's not a lack of potential. Negotiation, that internal conversation that starts right after clarity shows up. The moment where your mind says, yeah, but maybe later. Or, yeah, but let me think about it. Yeah, but I need to handle something first. Yeah, but what if? And what most people don't realize, every time you renegotiate with something that you already know, that weakens your self trust. And if you don't trust yourself under pressure, no strategy will save you. It is what it is, right? So today, tonight, or this morning, whenever you're watching this, we're going to break this down, what negotiation really is, why it happens, why clarity alone never fixes it, and what it takes to build an identity that executes without reopening every decision. Because this week made one thing painfully clear. Like, you're not confused. You're not confused, but you are negotiating. And negotiation has a cost. All right, so let's get into it. First thing you got to do is you got to name the breakdown, right? Most people think that their biggest problem is the uncertainty. Like, they think, you know what, if I can just get uh clearer on the direction I want to go, if I had one more piece of information, if I had more confidence, if I could say with my chest, do it with my chest. And if I knew exactly how, that's the killer right there. If I knew exactly how, then I would move. And it sounds good, sounds logical, sounds responsible. It's even the mature thing to do. I would even say it even sounds wise, but most of the time it's a bold-faced lie, right? Because clarity is not the problem. Like, you already know. You know the conversation you need to have. You know the standard that you need to install. Like, you know the habit that you need to stop tolerating. You even know the investment you need to make. You know the action that needs to happen right now, next, the next move. Not all the moves, just the next one. Like, you know what it is. And if you were being honest, the evidence is all over your life. Like, tell me this. How many times have you already known what needed to happen, but you still stalled? You still delayed? How many times have you had the insight, you had everything that you needed, you felt the convention, you felt it in your spirit, you felt that internal pull, like, that's something I got to do, but you still pause. Like, yo, that's not a lack of clarity. That's negotiation at its finest. And so this is where execution breaks down for most people. It's not before clarity; it's actually after it. So naturally, if you have that breakdown, you got to know what it actually sounds like. And so negotiation doesn't sound like anything dramatic. It's little, it's subtle, it sounds smart, it sounds strategic, it sounds responsible. Like, it sounds like, you know what? Let me wait until next week. Go ahead and I'm gonna knock this out. Let me get through this first. Let me make sure all this is good first. Or you sit back and think, I got to put more time. I got to weigh the costs. You know what I mean? I just need more time. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. I got it. Right now is not the right time because I got this, and this. And because that sounds reasonable, you don't challenge it. You just accept it. Like you let it sit there. You let it guide your next move. And slowly but surely, without realizing it, you're teaching yourself that my decisions are temporary, my commitments, my commitments are negotiable, and my clarity is optional. It's a dangerous place to be, like for real. Because every time you reopen a decision, your higher self, you know, that higher self you got, it's already it's already a done deal for that. Like you trained your nervous system not to trust your leadership. That's inside you. And so that's why you see people, they start to restart, they start to spin. That's why people keep circling the same breakthrough. And it's not even because they don't know. It's because they renegotiated with themselves. And most time it takes years, sometimes it takes years to really feel the cost of the negotiation. Because, negotiation always costs something. Always. Like it's going to cost you your momentum. It's going to cost you your confidence. It's going to cost you your self trust, your speed, your alignment, cost opportunities. And the craziest part is most people don't feel the cost immediately. That's what makes it dangerous. Like negotiation doesn't usually create instant pain. It creates a delayed erosion though. Like you don't need to feel the damage in the moment, or you don't feel the damage in the moment. Like you feel it months later when you finally come up from air from the bottom of the sea, right? And you realize, you know what? I'm dealing with the same pattern. I'm still facing the same decision. I was thinking about that months ago. Still circling the same breakthrough, right? Still explaining why, isn't the time. Like that's the tax. That's the tax of negotiation. And if you keep paying it, eventually your life starts reflecting hesitation as an identity. That's who you are. You're the hesitator. And so this week, going through, it surfaced that same pattern clearly. Like this is across multiple conversations. I was talking to different people, different stories, different circumstances, but it was the same breakdown. Every single person. Like I'm seeing that, people had vision, people had clarity, people had conviction, people could clearly articulate, this is what I want. But when it was time to show up and show out, when execution demanded immediate movement, I don't know. Negotiation showed up, right? And this is what stood out. The resistance didn't appear when they were unclear. Mm-mm, sure didn't. It appeared when they were clear, when they knew. Like that's the moment. That threshold, that exact internal moment where your future asks you for action. The future is like, hey, we got to move. But your current identity, it hesitates. Like, I don't know about that. Uh, ain't no way. Not today. That's where execution is either installed or it's postponed. And so, speaking of threshold moments, um, every meaningful breakthrough has a threshold. Every single one. It's the moment where clarity demands a cost, and that cost might be I have to come off some change. It may cost you your comfort, maybe some of your time, maybe some of your energy. You may have to take a risk. It may cost you some of your certainty. It's definitely going to cost you your ego, and you may lose a little control. And because of that, this is where negotiation enters, because your current identity wants safety at all costs. But your future identity, it requires movement. And those two versions, when they collide at that threshold, it's a lovely thing. But when they do collide, that's why people freeze. That's why hesitation appears. That's why logic suddenly becomes overanalyzed. Like threshold exposes your installed identity, not your desired identity. The one that you're holding on to oh so tight, the one that you've been conditioned to repeat over and over again. And so that's why more information, it doesn't fix it. Like it rarely solves any type of execution problems. Like information builds your awareness. Like you're aware, and then you start knowing, but it doesn't create an identity that's stable. Like you know what to do, and you still not doing it. Like you can understand every principle, you got every framework down, right? You got every strategy, every concept, but you still hesitate. Why is that? It's because execution is not a knowledge game, it's an identity game. And until identity stabilizes under pressure, knowledge will always collapse at the threshold. So you got rest and we got negotiation drift, right? This came up heavy, this week. And a lot of people need this distinction. Like when you rest, you're not drifting. You're not a bad person for resting. God rested after the seventh day, right? Healthy rest says, I'm intentionally recovering so I can re-enter strongly. I gotta sit down for a little bit. Negotiation drift says something totally different. It says, I'm just going to pause for a little while. And then that little while becomes days. And those days become weeks. And the next thing you know, the momentum is gone. Like you got to start all over again. That's not rest. That's avoidance disguised as recovery. And man, it matters because a lot of people like they're not quitting. They're not quitting the idea or the goal or the dream. They're just drifting quietly, slowly, responsibly, right? That's what makes it dangerous. And so the question that you need to ask yourself, the question that you really need to sit with is, where in your life, where in your life are you renegotiating something you already decided? What standard keeps getting reopened? What commitment keeps getting revisited? And what action keeps getting delayed? What clarity keeps getting questioned? So as you go through those questions, you got to be honest. You got to be honest about it because naming it is the first disruption. It's the first step. Like you can't interrupt what you refuse to identify. So what fixes this? I know. I heard you. I heard you. I'm tracking with you. So what fixes this? Not more hype, not more pressure, not more temporary motivation. You throw on the playlist. Like what you need is an operating standard, a non-negotiable internal identity. Like what you need is an identity that says, you know what? When I decide, I move. When clarity lands, I execute. When pressure rises, I don't negotiate. Not me. I don't renegotiate either. Like that's what execution under pressure really is. Like it's not an emotional intensity, it's identity stability. It's becoming that kind of person who no longer reopens what truth already settled. right? So I know you're sitting there asking you, hey, CJ, how does that happen? What do I need to do? So this is where the shift happens right now. So all right, so think about an area where negotiation keeps showing up for you. Can you see it? Now that you can see it, now I need you to name it. And after you name it, now I need you to ask yourself, all right, what has this negotiation already cost me? What are opportunities have I lost? What peace haven't I found yet? What momentum am I losing? You know, what trust, what does trust look like in myself? And then ask, what would happen if I stopped negotiating today? Like what really changes if this decision I'm gonna make becomes final? What opens if I stop revisiting what I already know? Like that's the shift. It's not learning something new. It's honoring what you already know. And so I know that you already know. That's what makes this serious. Like you don't need another revelation. Like what you need is obedience to the revelation you already received. Because every time you renegotiate, you strengthen that hesitation. And every time you execute, you strengthen your self trust. That's the game. That's the game. That's the work. That's the installation. So if you don't trust yourself under pressure, you've heard me say this multiple times, and I'm gonna keep saying it. If you don't trust yourself under pressure, no strategy will save you. Like this isn't about motivation. This isn't about hype. This isn't this isn't about any of that. It's about building an identity that executes without reopening decisions. And if you made it this far, woo, you made it this far. You're that kind of person who carries responsibility. I know you are. And if people are dependent on your consistency, if your hesitation affects more than just you and you alone, then you're in the right place. This is where you need to be. This is where execution gets installed. This is where negotiation ends. So, responsible leaders, this is where you rebuild self trust. And if any of this hit, any of it, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button because I'm here every Wednesday, every week. This is where we're exposing the patterns that keep execution from collapsing. That way you can install the identity that survives pressure. Till then, catch you on the next one, and I'll see you next week.